Hi, it's Christine here with another episode of Rise in Radiance. And today I am super excited for my guest. She is coming from the other side of the country in New York. And I am so glad she's here. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio before I do a formal introduction. Or as part of the formal introduction. So my guest today is Rebecca Casciano. I guess I didn't even ask, is that how you pronounce your name?
Close.
Close. You want to tell me so I get it right? Sorry.
It's Casciano.
Casciano. Okay, great. Rebecca is a makeup artist, a natural beauty expert, and a wellness coach. And she is on a mission to empower women to discover their authentic beauty so they can radiate with a confidence that positively impacts all aspects of their lives. I love that. I love that. Since 2000, Rebecca's work as a makeup artist in bridal, fashion, and entertainment has paralleled her personal wellness journey, deeply influencing her approach to beauty. Can't wait to hear about that, Rebecca. This inspired her to start the Sacred Beauty Movement, which I hope we get to dive into today, Rebecca, which is a series of in-person and online programs dedicated to exploring beauty through self-love. Hello, thank you, I love that. Spirituality and sisterhood. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for being here today. Welcome.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
I'm so grateful that we get to do this, kind of have this conversation together. There's so much, and when I started following you, which I think might have been almost 2 years ago, I definitely felt a connection and a resonance with the work that you do. Self-love, radiance, inner beauty, really your true and authentic beauty. So I suspect we're kind of, we're soul sisters in a way. I already feel that about you. And at the end, we'll give some information on how they can connect with you online. So I'm kind of a no-nonsense type of gal. I've got my questions and which will kickstart our conversation, and we'll kind of take things from there. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Good. So, as you know, this show, and what I'm really wanting to share with women is you have answered a calling. You've answered, I believe, probably more than one calling in your life, and so if you can, pick whatever one really speaks most to you. If it's the start of your movement or something else, share with us, put us back in that place for yourself when you were feeling that calling, sensing into it, heard it, however it hit you, and then what kind of transpired and unfolded from there as you stepped into pursuing that calling.
Sure. So I've been a makeup artist for 18 years. And so that was definitely a moment where I had my initial calling to be a makeup artist. I've been creative since I was a child, drawing and painting and all that good stuff. I moved to New York City to be an art director, graphic designer, and then realized I didn't want to work on computers. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to express my art through my hands and through color. And so I decided to become a makeup artist. And it was interesting because at the same time, I was also struggling with chronic cystic acne, which is the most severe form of acne that you can have. And so this kind of put me on my path of exploring wellness and a plant-based diet and holistic healing. And so it was really a life-changing time for me, where I chose to change everything that I knew about how to eat and how to live. And I found that not only did that help me heal my skin, but it also transformed my entire lifestyle. And so I was kind of living in these two worlds, being a makeup artist and working very much, on the outside, but also being really connected to, spirituality and wellness and how to approach beauty from the inside out. And so, I was going along with my career and kind of having these two worlds, my personal and, interests, and then my professional life, which, I also loved and had a great time with. But in around 2008, when the economy really shifted, I found that I wasn't working very much. And it was one of those moments where you're kind of like, what's next? What am I going to do here? And the path of being an entrepreneur was also always challenging, being a makeup artist and always having to look for work and kind of be on that road. And so I thought, what else am I passionate about? And what came to me was wellness. And I never really thought that I would become a wellness coach, but I was always very interested in the work of friends of mine who were pursuing this calling. And it wasn't until I was at that moment where I was just, praying and just asking for, what is the way? Like, show me the way. What am I meant to be doing? That this idea started to kind of come back to me. And I actually was working on a model doing makeup on set, and she told me about a program she was taking, and that kind of made me remember this idea that I had kind of buried, that someday I wanted to work in wellness. And so I went home and started doing some research and found the website of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I said, that's it. I'm going to become a health coach. And I was so convinced, like I had the goosebumps, and I was just more excited than I had ever been that this work was going to be so meaningful and so positive. And I think in some way I knew that I would be bringing the beauty and wellness together, since that was such a part of my own journey. But I was really ready to just dive in, and leave the beauty behind. But the universe had other plans for me, and beauty is, it's my heart. It's been with me since I was a young girl. And I know the power of being able to connect those two things. And, instead of just helping women look beautiful through makeup artistry, helping them feel beautiful through wellness, through looking at all the aspects of our lives to see how they're connected. So I feel like for me, that transformed my entire approach to beauty and my career and what I offer. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a journey. There were so many nuggets in that. And I want to start with what you said earlier on, that when you were younger, right, you really were connected. And it's one thing that jumped out at me is that you saw and felt your passion, right? You acknowledged it, you recognized it, and then you pursued it. It was very strong connection. And then the part in the next part that's really jumped out at me is when you were I can see you're kind of living in two worlds, right? On the one hand, all the fashion makeup and doing all of that, making people externally look beautiful. And you were struggling with your own really external beauty with the acne, right? But not giving up on it, and seeing that and staying open to finding a solution and being open to the changes that you had to make was a powerful, a very empowered place to lead your life from.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing that I loved is your intuition, that you knew like beauty was such a big part of you, right? Like, even though you were willing to let it go, you had this sense that somehow it would come back, into your life. And it did. And how often that happens a lot to us. And we feel like it's like we have to like let go of one life to get another life. And sometimes it's really integrating the key pieces and the key passions. And we don't have to let go of those things that we're still passionate about. Sounds like that's kind of how it unfolded for you too.
Definitely. Yes.
Yes. Definitely. I love that. Well, I also went to Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Yay.
I didn't go in person. I did it online because as a coach, I was looking to, and I was very much into health and wellness, and I wanted to update my credentials and stumbled onto that. And it's been amazing to utilize those tools in my existing coaching. So we have one more thing in common. I love that.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So again, I'm all about radiant achievement, and I love you even have it in your bio. Like, you really, want women to radiate and to have this confidence, so it positively impacts every aspect of their life. And that really lines up with me to be radiant achievement, right? Like, whether it's your career or your relationships or your health, to really radiate and be achieving those things that are most important to you in your life. And it shows externally. So when you think of radiant achievement, what definition comes to mind for you?
Well, I love those two words together because I think they both have the elements of inner and outer self.
Mm.
So radiance, when I hear that word, I think about radiance coming from within. It starts from within. It starts from, all the things that you talk about: joy, happiness, grace, all of those inner beauty qualities. And those are the things that truly make women beautiful, are how they feel. It's so much more about how we feel than how we actually physically look in terms of our features, our body type, our age. It's all about the inside,
Yes.
right? And same thing with achievement. Achievement can be, we tend to associate that more with like an external kind of outcome, right? We look at
Right.
achievement as, having made a certain amount of money, or being able to buy a house, or, kind of, that's for me the first thing that I kind of think of. But achievement can be, maintaining a spiritual practice, meditating every day, learning how to love yourself more. And so I love bringing these two words together because it just really inspires you and reminds you that it all comes from within.
Yes. Well said. I love that.
Thanks.
So much of what you said is really exactly the messaging that is in my book. So I love that you are aligned that way too. Yes.
I love
Beautiful.
it.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
Okay, so again, kind of now going back to your journey and, looking along the path from the makeup artist to wellness, and then coming back and starting your movement and bringing them together. What was the most significant and possibly the most surprising inner strength or inner power that you discovered, or maybe even a shift that you made while you were pursuing these different callings?
I think the first word that comes to mind is resilience,
Mm,
because it's taken a lot of that
mm,
to take the road less traveled, so to speak, especially when stepping out of the traditional beauty industry and saying, I want to be a clean beauty makeup artist, and I want to be a wellness coach, and I want to teach women how beauty and wellness are connected.
mm-hmm.
Um, because it's still a conversation that's not being had on a large scale. It's still not the norm, right? So the past 10 years, we've been really changing as a culture how we eat, the type of foods that we're eating, like local, organic, like all these different diets, and, things like that have really become the norm. But looking at beauty from a holistic perspective, I think is still quite new. And, when I first started my group program, Sacred Beauty Salon Series, it was 3 years ago, and it was definitely a new conversation. And so anytime you start something new, you kind of feel alone sometimes because
Yes.
there's no model to follow. I'm sure you can relate to that. I know you've, been creating this type of work for quite a while as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, having the resilience to go on despite not possibly seeing the results um,
Yes.
that you want to see, the numbers that you want to see. I think this has been a strength that I've developed, over these many years of, working for myself, that was surprising. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had it in me, so to
Right.
speak. But when I look back and see, what I have created pretty much on my own, without any formal training except for integrative nutrition, I'm like, okay, you did
I
that.
need to give myself a couple pats on the back, right? Well,
Right. Yeah.
being as I listen to you go through and talk about how you're combining things, I can totally see that, and I know where we are in Southern California, and the rest of the country definitely isn't necessarily there. Being a trailblazer is like you have to gear up, right? And
Yes.
resilience, you absolutely have to have resilience. So I'm not surprised, and I love to see that you acknowledge that and see that in yourself. And you bring up a great point too, that I think a lot of women that are on the leading edge, right? Or even if they're not the leading edge, but they're stepping out and they're committed, right? When we talked beforehand, like you're committed to your movement. You're committed to really bringing this message to women that we do need the resilience and we need support. So how can we find like-minded individuals, right? That maybe they're doing something different, but we understand the journey. We understand that trailblazing aspect, or the getting out of the comfort zone and sticking with it despite things being lean, or the numbers not being there, but just knowing that, you know, we know we're so on purpose.
Yes.
Like, we know that it's gonna work out however it's gonna work out, but we need to stick the course because it's so connected to that inner voice.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. I think
So
I've been fortunate to have that, you know, kind of support all my life. Like my parents always encouraged me to follow my, you know, artistic leanings. And, you know, there was never like a worry about like, you can't do this for some reason. So I do feel really fortunate to have the support in that way, just to kind of have followed my heart for this many years. And to kind of stay the course, it becomes like, you know, just what you know. You know what
right.
I mean? It's this is what I know and this is what I'm here to do. And so despite the ups and downs, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. What a gift to have been brought up that way and have parents that were that supportive. What advice would you give to somebody that maybe hasn't grown up that way? Didn't have that
Yeah.
kind of support.
Find a sister who can support you. And that's, you know, exactly why I started the Sacred Beauty movement. It's a group program and series that brings women together to explore our stories around beauty and to share with one another, you know, our lives. And there's so much power in that, and having other women to support and uplift you. That's why I love the work that you're doing as well, and that you're creating this book and this podcast for women to have that connection and have that support. So I think, you know, they say that our friends are our chosen family. And so finding friends that are, you know, that understand you and that are on a similar path, it just means everything, and is definitely needed, even if you do have a family who supports you. They
Right.
won't always understand you. So you got to find the women that will. So definitely
Right.
finding that community.
Love that. And this wasn't one of the questions, but it came up. So I'd love to ask you is in doing the work, and, you know, if we talk even just about the movement, the classes and the programs that you're doing, what has been a takeaway or a insight for you that, you know, as a result of the work that you've done? And it could be about you personally or women, or, you know, anything that was like an unexpected positive outcome or result.
That's a good question too. I think from the very first time I did this workshop, it was really an experiment, something that I was kind of bringing together different aspects of my work as a makeup artist, as a coach. And from that very first session, the way the women answered the questions that I prompted them with, the emotions that came up, it just really kind of made me know in like a very deep place that this work is so needed.
That
And
just gave
that,
me chills. Yeah.
yeah, me too. And you know, that we have so much healing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just asking a simple question like, when was the last time you felt beautiful?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, women's responses were like, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever felt beautiful. I mean,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
and so just that alone, like that
Mm-hmm.
propels me forward. That gives me the peace of knowing that that I'm on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just kind of like feeling the fear and doing it anyways, you know, like you don't know what's going to happen from this, but this is what's in my heart and I want to put it out there. It just takes that one person to tell you that something you said or did changed their life.
Yep.
And
The
you're like,
impact.
I'm sold. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I want to acknowledge you for sticking with it and for trusting, and I think that's, you know, something as women that we struggle with, trusting that, you know, especially as an entrepreneur. It's like we can go get a job and here's our job description, here's what we should do, here's the expected outcomes, right? But as an entrepreneur, you're trusting your gut, you're trusting your heart, you're putting you, like, you're bringing you, Rebecca, right, to your work, and that can be scary. So when we get the validation of how it positively impacted somebody, absolutely, that's fuel. So
Golden, right? Yeah.
golden. Yes, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, I need a little water here.
Okay, I'll take some too.
All right, here's a good one, and you alluded to it a little bit, and maybe we can chat a little bit further. Is how has your calling changed over time, or how has it taken you in surprising directions, and even what has it like opened up for you as a result of an unexpected direction or
Yeah.
that surprised you?
Well, I think that, for so many years, I mean, at least 10 years, being a makeup artist and being like a top makeup artist was my main goal. My goal was booking huge campaigns, getting amazing fashion editorials, doing runway shows. I kind of wanted to be the next Pat McGrath. I don't know if you know who she is, but look her up. She's incredible.
Okay.
So that was my goal for the first 10 years of my career. And even though I was very passionate about wellness, I never imagined that it would be something that I would be qualified to talk about, and something that I would be doing for my work. And so that was a very surprising shift in my calling, that I just didn't imagine. And then kind of just working through those insecurities in the beginning of
Okay.
like, who am I? This comes up when you start coaching, like, who am I to lead others, or who am I to advise, or, hold space for this. And so kind of just working through those things and seeing kind of how they unfold. Initially, when I became a coach, like I said, I was doing more of the wellness kind of traditional, talking about diet and lifestyle, and then about the beauty products and what's in them. And then eventually I hosted a couple live events, and I was like, oh, I love this group dynamic. Like, this is like where it's at for me, which was also surprising because I've always been the type of person who gets nervous when you have to go around in a circle and say your name. I would be like my heart beating, and like I never, thought of myself as someone who could speak in public. And so actually like putting myself out there and talking in front of groups of people, I mean, whoa, I would have never imagined. So even shifting from being behind the camera, doing the makeup and always being behind the camera, to actually stepping in front of the camera and doing my own photo shoots and speaking in front of people and, being on television and, all these things that I just would have really never imagined for myself back when I first started working. So
love that story. And you hit on thank you for sharing that. You hit on a perfect point. Two things came up for me. Number one, you had this openness to let the path unfold, right? And I see, and you are totally speaking radiant achievement, because that old strategic, I need to have this plan and this plan, and like it has to be so figured out ahead of time, and then you go execute. Like, yes. Radiant achievement is openness, and you're doing something that you're inspired to do, and then you let it see where that leads, and then the next thing, and even though you had the insecurities, you recognized it as insecurities versus reasons to not do, right? And you work through that. But the biggest thing that I want to circle back to, and I think it's a huge thing, and you can maybe share a bit if you notice this in your workshops, is you are stepping up as a leader, getting from behind the camera to in front of the camera, speaking,
yes,
owning your voice, owning the message, owning your work. You are a radiant leader. And how has that really sunk in for you? Like, I am a leader. I'm leading I started a movement. I'm leading a movement. And do you identify with that word leader, or how does that sit with you? And I know a lot of women have kind of some issues and anxieties about being a leader.
Yeah. I think a lot of it does go back to the way that I was raised to be a leader. I think, just always encouraged to do my own thing. I was kind of like always the girl who like came to school with crazy hair, or like painted my own clothes, or, kind of, I think that creativity allowed me, like whenever you're able to express yourself, I feel like there's like that, like, little nugget of like being a leader in that, in self-expression,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Great point. Yeah, because
Yeah.
at a minimum, we are a leader of one, and that's ourselves, right? So
Mhm.
we are, yeah, everyone is a leader of their own life if they
Yes.
choose to be, and not everybody chooses to be. Um, so yeah, so it sounds like you have that strong sense of self from a young
Yes,
age, and that has carried you through then as you step out in bigger ways, impacting more people.
definitely. And I'm an Aries, so
Okay.
fire
Love it.
sign, first sign of the zodiac. So, there's that element. But I have to say, even with that, those self-worth issues are like, they still come up. They will still come up and like ask you, who are
Yes.
you to do this?
Yes.
And so not saying that, having that from a young age makes it all okay. Like there are still those times for sure where, you question yourself or you doubt what you're doing. And
Well,
so
because
yeah,
you're constantly up leveling too, right? Like you might be doing a workshop with 6 people. Now you're doing a workshop with 26 people, or talking to 50 people. Now it's 250 people. So
yes.
and I think that's a great point to emphasize, because I so stand with you on those. Self-worth it's the first power of the 7 powers, and it's a cornerstone power.
Mm,
It's very difficult to follow that soul-centered calling, what I call a soul-centered calling, if
mhm.
you don't have a sense of self-worth.
Yes.
So as we continue to step forward and expand our vision of how we want to make a difference in the world and what our work looks like, we're continuing to expand into that bigger vision of our worth, for sure.
Yes.
So it doesn't, so
Totally.
ladies listening, it doesn't end, right? This is not a, we kind of fix ourselves.
Yeah,
It's a constant evolution and an
it
expansion.
is.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. My last question, we've alluded and talked a little bit about a few of the powers of radiant achievement. There are 7, and we chatted about this a bit in the beginning. What role is the power of inspired action? Right, is that we picked? Yes. What role does the power of inspired action have in your life, or have in your journey of your movement or living your calling?
Mhm. I think I aspire to have inspiration be the force of my actions. It's not always the case, because sometimes you have to take action to even get inspired. I've learned
Yes.
over time. You're right. And so you can't wait for the inspiration to strike. But when you feel inspired, you have to take action despite the fear. And this is how I felt when I started the Sacred Beauty movement in 2015. It was saying, okay, I know I love the energy of holding space for women. I know I love doing group programs. I know that inner and outer beauty are connected. I want to create this program and I want to put it out there. And so I followed the steps as best as I knew how, to move forward and just take the next right step.
Mm.
And I think that's what inspired action is about. It's not always knowing the outcome. I still don't know the outcome of the Sacred Beauty movement. It's a work in progress, and it's always evolving. Like you said, like from one year to the next, there are new things that I want to do. There are different ways that I want to grow. But I think just kind of finding your purpose and knowing what your inspiration is so important. And sometimes that just takes time. Like I had to peel back the layers. I always like imagine like the onion, and kind
Yes.
of peeling back the layers of the onion to find out at your core what you want to do. And the whole idea of finding, one's purpose can be inspiring. It can also be very intimidating, because I think, our main purpose is to just be happy and to love ourselves and one another,
Yes.
just to make it easy, somewhat. And so these things, it just evolves. But the point is just to movement. Like I think there's so much power in movement, and it's something I have to bring myself back to, time and time again, to
Right.
through. So
No, I love how you describe that, because a lot of times, and I know for myself, this has been a shift, right? When you get that hit, whether you hear something, you feel something, you see something, you get to that place of awareness, oh, this has been this is a clue. This is something I need to do, or this is a message for me. I need to call that person. I need to, write this particular kind of post or what, I was inspired today at the checkout line. Joanna Gaines, the new cover of Magnolia, had something about, the world needs you to, do what you came here for, something like that. I'm like, that's my next post, right? So if we get to, really understanding, it's in that with the inspired action, it's just that next step, right? It's not the whole journey. It's this next step in front of us. And if we can start to be more connected, to see and feel and hear those next steps, right? Which just sounds like exactly what you have been doing so beautifully on your journey, is taking, and sometimes it's a lesson, right? Sometimes, and I will say, and I would love to get your thoughts on this. I used to hate to make a mistake, and hence that's why I really wanted to plan everything out, because that was a fear of making a mistake, wasting time, money, being looking foolish, especially if looking foolish in front of somebody else. So I've, as I've let go of a lot of that strategic stuff. And again, like you said, I love it. There's a time and a place, and when you need to be strategic and do things.
Sure.
But there's so much more joy and unexpected results, like in a good way, that have come for me when I have acted on that inspired action, right? Versus waiting for everything to get planned out. So,
Definitely.
Is that something that you?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do, but the more you do it, it's like a practice, right? It
Yes.
really is. The more you do it, the more intuitive it becomes, that yes, I must do this next thing. Yes, I must write this post or write this book, or, it kind of leads you along the way, to just kind of put it out there, even if it's imperfect. And even if and I definitely I used to call myself a perfectionist. And when I met my partner, he told me this quote that really resonated with me. I think is a Tony Robbins quote, is that perfectionism is the lowest standard because you will never achieve it.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't exist.
I've never heard of that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I used to kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm a perfectionist, and, kind of think that it was something good. But being a perfectionist won't get you anywhere,
Right. Right.
So it's about just letting that go and just say, I'm just going to do it. And it's not going to look and sound exactly the way I want it to be, but it's movement. And it's like progress, not perfection, right?
Progress, not perfection, right. Well, and let me ask you this too about inspired action. Have you seen where the hit that you get, that inspired action, might have been something you never would have thought of? Like, again, you're just in this place of openness and listening, and all of a sudden you get this flash of inspiration. And you're like, wow, that's such a great idea. And it wasn't you coming up with it by sitting on paper and being strategic.
Definitely. I think, journaling and, being reflective is definitely something I make time for. I'm a big fan of Julia Cameron and The Artist's Way.
Yes.
And the morning pages. And so sometimes it's just about like free writing or putting words on the paper, or, you have to find different ways to like get the process going. Right.
Right. And so that's something that's worked for you, and you see inspired actions coming out of doing that, the morning pages or the journaling.
Definitely. I feel like writing is such an important practice because it just gets us out of our heads. It gets things out on paper, and we're talking and bouncing ideas, off of someone else and just kind of talking it through. Okay. Because when you're up in your head and you're just thinking about it, it's just, I feel like it can only go but so far. Like, you have to just start putting things down on paper. And I see even like you have your vision board behind your head. I love that. So that's another wonderful way of, kind of just starting to, get a vision for what this project or a new home or whatever it may be, like what you want that to look like. I think it's just important to get out of your head and put it on paper in some way or another.
Yes, I love that. So would you suggest, and do you have a daily habit of writing in your journal in the morning or at night or both?
Yeah, I aspire to. I go in and out of it. I go for long periods of doing it. And then, those habits, they kind of like, traveling or something disrupts them. And so I definitely
Okay.
want to get back to it. It's been super helpful for me, especially during times where I feel uncertain
Yes.
about what to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I've noticed that for myself instead of, and I can feel that. I can feel kind of that anxiety of, I don't know what I should do next. I've got too many steps. And so
Yes.
I know sometimes I'll journal a gratitude list, and that gets me
Mhm.
again out of my head, which I think is so key, ladies. We tend to be in our head, right? And it's
Yes.
not a good place to live. I think that keeps us swirling around. So how can we get out of our head, right? Reconnected with our intuition, our inner wisdom, with all these like resources and messages that are just all around us that we can tap into when we're grounded and centered and
Totally.
right. So I
Indeed.
love that. Well,
Yeah.
so that those are all my questions, but I would love to, if there's anything additional you'd love to share with our viewers or listeners on,
Mm.
yeah.
Such good questions,
Oh,
Christine.
good.
Yeah, I loved everything. It was so great talking with you. I feel like, there's so much alignment in what we do. And so I'm so grateful to support you in this way. And, also to, be able to share this with the women who are fortunate enough to read your book and to listen in
Absolutely
on this. So,
fabulous. Thank you. Well, I just, again, I really resonated with you from the moment I found you online in your work. And I definitely loved the conversation here because inside I was shaking my head a lot to what you say is very resonant with what I teach too. So I would
yeah.
love for our listeners and viewers to be able to connect with you. I know they're going to want to. Do you want to tell us the best? I think your website is probably the best way to go. Would you like to spell that out for everybody?
Sure. Yeah. So my website is RebeccaCasciano.com, and it's RebeccaCasciano. And you could also follow me on Instagram for daily inspiration. And that's also at Rebecca Casciano. I post quite a bit there. I also have on my website a free download. It's a guided self-love journal. And so it has some of the writing prompts and the affirmations that I work with when I do coaching and programs with women. Some of my offerings are makeup artistry and makeup lessons. I also do virtual consultations, and my specialty is in plant-based and clean beauty. So if there's any women out there who are looking to approach their beauty from, a more empowered place and being, very conscious about what we're putting on our skin and choosing products that are safe and healthy for your body and the environment, I'd be happy to be your guide.
Beautiful.
I also offer sacred beauty coaching one-on-one, which is really approaching beauty from a holistic perspective. I have group programs, I do salons, and so you could find out about all of that on my website. And
Fabulous.
I would love to hear from you.
You're up to a lot of beautiful things supporting women, and I so acknowledge you for the work you're doing, for following your calling, and for sharing your message here today on your journey of doing that and what you've done to stay committed and true to you. So thank you, and for all our listeners, thank you for being here or watching this episode today. You can find me at thechristinehoward.com. If you haven't connected with me there yet, I would love to connect with you virtually. Also, Instagram and Facebook, the same thing, The Christine Howard. And I, like Rebecca, have a free gift for you, which is all about rituals and rituals that will support you in awakening your radiant achievement. So until next time, thank you all for being here. Rebecca, thanks again. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye, everyone.